Hi guys, FPS Mans here, and welcome back to the Unlinkable Dads podcast. And I'm joined by our co-host today, the man that knows more about Lorcana than Disney does sequels. It's Grandad Glenn. And today's episode, we're going to be talking a little bit about last week's set champs. We're also going to be bringing you some day one deck lists from Jafar. So, without further ado, let's jump in. So, as always, we will start off with the week in the inks. My week's been quite plain and simple. Nothing major this week. I managed to do what I said I was going to do in the last episode. Turn up at set champs, I wish. Turn up on Friday to locals, went 3-0, undefeated. Managed to play the man, the myth, the legend himself in the final. Unfortunately, my deck was just teched for your deck. So, I had the better run there. And yeah, come away 3-0. I'm very happy. And I think locals worked really well. I think the pin, because basically the way our locals does, the amber pin gets passed down each week. So if the player who wins normally receives the pin, if they've already won it, it passes down to second, third, and so on. I think it went down to about 6th or 7th place on Friday, which is nice. It's nice to see that that everyone's collecting them and getting the parts they need from the league, which is good. So, but how was your week?
Really
You went to a set champ Saturday, didn't you?
I did. It was on the Sunday. So, but yeah. After you destroying my confidence on the Friday by destroying me 2-0 in that final game. In fact, I'm sure it was about 6 weeks ago. You said to me, "We haven't played each other in ages, have we?" And you were right. And I think we played each other 4 times in about the last 6 weeks. So yeah, on kind of zero confidence, I then got a message because I wasn't due to be playing set champs at the weekend, but then got a message from a friend who said he wasn't able to go. Would I like his ticket? Which I snapped up, very happily, and went along. 4 of us jumped in the car and went along to set champs. And yeah, we had a good day. I mean, it's a set of champs we've played at before.
Mm-hmm.
Local players there are really nice. The staff are really nice. Terribly disorganised. I'll come on to that in a minute, but lovely, lovely people. And it was funny because the night before I'd sort of said to Lily, my granddaughter, I don't know really what to play. Should I play Blurple? I'm not quite sure. And she went, "You could take my deck." And I went, "Yeah, but Lily, I don't know how to play it." She went, "Grandad, you built it and you show me how to play it." Okay, fair enough. But I thought, no, I'll stick with Blurple. That's what I've been playing. I've done okay with it at locals. So, turned up round 1, Chernadogs. Look round the room, Chernadogs. Aggro purple steel, aggro amber steel. I just thought this is not going to be a good day. It's not going to be a good day. Lost 2-0 in the first round. Somehow then managed to claw it back to winning the next 3 games.
Nice.
I was really pleased with that because I played Ruby Amethyst in round 2. Then I played an aggro amber steel and then another Chernadogs, although I don't know whether there's any Cherner in that one. I didn't see it in 2 games, but there may have been. Yeah, just dogs. So yeah, so I was really pleased. Ended up 3-1. So that felt quite good. And then it felt not so good when I bubbled out on a 3-1 because they had a cut to top 4. But of the 4 of us that travelled, 3 of us were in the top 5. So
Nice.
2 of our friends ended up playing the final, which was really, 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 really fortunate. The reason it was fortunate was this was a Sunday. We're playing at a store which is in a shopping centre. The shopping centre is open 10 till 4 on a Sunday. So for those that play set champs, that's 6 hours to play a set champs. It's not a lot. So they do 4 rounds. Yeah, and a cut to top 4. But even then, that's 4 55-minute rounds, and then a semi-final and final of 70 minutes each. So you're pushing it. You're hoping that some games finish early. They decided they weren't going to start until 11 for whatever reason. They like a challenge.
Yeah.
So we've now only got 5 hours to play this thing. So we get into like the semi-final, and the semi-final was a red-blue mirror. So red-blue items and a more standard red-blue. So understandably, the red-blue mirror isn't a quick game, and the store owner or manager comes over and says, "Oh, I don't want to hurry you, but we're going to struggle to fit it in." And we're like, "Well, yeah, we knew that several hours ago. These guys are playing the semi-final. They ain't going to rush. You know,
No, exactly.
it's a tight game. You know, so we were clearly never going to play the final. So what would have happened had it not been two people who were in the same car in the final? I don't know, but as it was, two people in the same car. Store owner wasn't gonna let the mat go without a result on melee. So one of our friends just went, "Fine, I concede." You know, put him down as the winner. We grabbed the mat, disappeared off, and made a bit of Lorcana history. I think we got the picture if you can put it up there. But yeah, so we went back to one of the guys' houses and played the final, or they played the final on his dining table in his spare room. So there in front of you is some Lorcana history. The first Set Champs final played out in a dining room. And Adam won there with Chernadogs, as we can kind of see. Got a line of things up there. Tough matchup for red blue items. Chernadogs was on the play as well. But yeah, a bit of Lorcana history. So you know, if anyone is watching this and is yet subscribed to the channel, go down there, click that subscribe button, because where else are you going to get this sort of content? Where else are you going to get these sort of stories and Lorcana history being made?
No, very nice, very nice. Like I say, if you're gonna have to play it, it's a good job they were in the same car, because that could have been extremely interesting. You would have had a situation where you're cutting it in half to make two playmats.
Yeah, I don't know what they would have done. Yeah,
I
played it
suppose
in
you
the
just
car
have
park
to
or something.
roll dice for it or something. I don't
Yeah,
know. They didn't see it. Maybe they need to bring back the second mat, because then it wouldn't have been an issue.
yeah, exactly. There you go.
But yeah, we have the winners' deck list here as well to have a quick look at. As far as I can see, I haven't played much of this deck myself, but as far as I can see, it's quite standard for Chernadog. I don't think there's anything in there that's massively out of place, or is a bit sort of mismatch. The only one that jumped out to me straight away was the Yzma. I don't recognise playing against this that much. But it's draw a card and discard a card, so it's just a natural way of them filling up their discard ready to play Chernadogs. So yeah, I'm not looking forward to this. I don't like the way this is going. I think this is going to be everywhere.
It looks like it could get even stronger. So so this was the winning deck, Adam's deck, and I know Go Tomago, did some work. The Tramp, but he actually said Pegasus was his MVP at the end of the day.
Oh, okay.
So he said
just because of the evasive, I suppose.
Yeah, he just said it. I mean, he doesn't play the shift line, but he said he just sat on the board and quested. And it got him, I think he said, like 6 lore in one game, eight in another game.
Yeah, I mean, if he's playing up against anything that's Amethyst, can probably deal with it turn 4, turn 5, but you're still getting 4 or 5 lore off it. So
yep, absolutely. And then, so the deck that I played round 1, so the Cherna Bog, obviously, as we know, it's just difficult to deal with when that comes out. And they played the Shere Khan as well, which is when you play it, you have to discard the rest of your hand, I think, but it quests for 4, and they managed to play it as the last card out of their hand. And I couldn't. I just think an Elsa, I think, so I couldn't interact with it. And that meant they were able to quest out for game. So
yeah. You made a couple of changes to your deck, didn't you? This is the one from Saturday compared to the one I faced on Friday.
I only changed a couple of cards, really, and I put the Cusco in didn't really use him, to be honest. But he was in there. I mean, I didn't face Sapphire, but he was really in there for Duck Manners. The Great Stone Dragon, so that did come in useful in a couple of games.
Nice.
I was happy to see that. I mean, the MVPs on the day for me were the Gaston
Hmm.
and the Bell. So
Nice.
the 5 costs. I mean, Gaston, for obviously you can quest for 3. He draws cards when he comes down, but also his body on a couple of occasions was just useful, having that 4 strength, and then Bell to be able to come down and move damage across.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used Bell so many times on the day. So those 2,
Nice.
yeah, worked really well.
Yeah, I think I don't think Blurple's gonna be able to stick around in set 8, especially if we're seeing a lot of aggro style decks, because it just doesn't cope with aggro very well. But yeah, I mean, it could be interesting. I mean, we've both come up with decks that we think could have a good potential for day 1. So do we want to go through your one? Have a look.
Why not? Let's have a look.
So, dealing with Chernadogs, which I think is kind of going to be the main game with any deck to begin with.
Right.
You've gone with Purple Steel.
Purple Steel, yeah. I kind of went with this one because I mean it's a deck I've enjoyed anyway. I think it's a pretty decent deck, but I really like that new Namari,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought this could fit in well and give this deck something that it maybe hasn't sort of had
Yeah.
previously. So the idea is, outside of a couple of cards, it's a relatively standard Purple Steel deck, but we're sort of building into the Namari card by having all 12 1-drops, because Namari is 5 cost, 0/5, quest for 2, but gets +1 strength for each card in your discard. So, we're happy with cards going in the discard because that's going to pump Namari for later on. So we've also got the library with that same sort of idea. We can move stuff to the library, it gets banished, it's in the discard. That's more strength for Namari. Plus, we're drawing cards off of it. Giant Cobra, again, allows us to discard a card to gain 2 lore, so we're just throwing the cards in the discard.
Mm-hmm.
And then, Namari comes in and, allows us to filter the deck. So when you play the character in the start of your turn, you can draw a card and discard a card. So it helps us to find key pieces. And then it might be a 5, 6, even more strength character that we can crash into some stuff. I've added
Nice.
Yelena in here, 2 copies of.
Yep.
Kind of instead of a crab, she's just a faster crab, if you like. She gives Challenger +2 when she comes down, but she quests for 2. So not as...
So I tried her in a Ruby Amethyst deck, and I found for me in Ruby Amethyst it was the lore you're not really too worried about in Ruby Amethyst, because obviously you're more late game. So I had to switch back to Crab because I found her onto my Queen of Hearts in my deck doesn't get rid of a Daisy. It's not enough. So I've had to take her out. But I can 100% with the 2 lore in here. I can definitely see it helps, because that's the one thing I would say looking at this deck is you might struggle with a finisher. There's no like Gantu or big quest body to finish that off, but you have got those ones that chip away. So you got the Smee, the Giant Cobra, Yelena. You've got those cards that very quickly chip away, and you let it quest 2 or 3 times, and before you know it, you're well up there. So you decided to go rabbits over genie.
Yeah, rabbits over genie. Just for that card draw. You have got plenty of card drawing here. You've got the 1-drops, you've got the library, you've got the dock. We've added a couple of desperate plan in here, so you have no cards in your hand. You draw until you have 3. Otherwise, choose and discard any number of cards, and then draw that number of cards. So it can be card draw, it can be filter. So there is, but I just felt it. We want to play we want to play cards out of our hand quite quickly. We want to go quite wide. We want to be quite aggro in this deck. Our only removal is Strength of a Raging Fire, so we want the width for that. but also, to allow us we want to be quite aggressive. So yeah, I just felt the card draw was important. So, but
Nice.
yeah, it'll need some testing.
No, it looks very good. Very good. So then I decided, as usual, my day one deck was going to be going back to Ruby Sapphire. Ruby Sapphire? Ruby Steel. Try again. I want this deck to work every time. I try it at the start of every set. I'm desperate to get this deck to work. It's better. It is better. Stitch has helped. So Stitch is during your turn, whenever this character banishes another character, you may draw a card and gain a law. So it's a Calhoun Callahan that draws a card and inkable. Yeah, it's 2 costs more, but it's, you don't mind waiting for a little bit if you're going to be able to draw a card at the same time. So again, Namari, completely agree. Very powerful card. I actually, in a test game, ended up with 15 damage on her. So yeah, she can slap. She can do some serious damage. And then because obviously this deck has always struggled with card draw, just always has, I've gone for Desperate Plan and Beyond the Horizon. So Beyond the Horizon is choose any number of players that they discard their hands and draw 3 cards each. The reason I went with this as well as Desperate Plan is because you can sing this, whereas you can't sing Desperate Plan. So I don't know how good this is going to be in this. I think it's going to be better in a Sapphire deck, so still Sapphire Steel deck. But it'd be interesting to see. But yeah, I've done a little bit of testing with this, and it seems quite powerful. But
You weren't
I'm still not 100%.
tempted by the can't remember the name of the card now. The Ruby 8 cost, which allows you to the Sing Together one, which then allows you to challenge with no damage.
I was tempted, but I don't know whether you really need it in this, because most of the time everything's got enough strength to take out what you want to take out at first hit. So therefore, you don't read the chance of you swinging the same thing into multiple things more than once is unlikely. So it's like Stitch only has 3 strength, but it's going to take out most of the early play cards. But you don't necessarily want this to die straight away. So, you want it to stick on board for your next turn so you can sing this, or, you've got options. So I'm not sure. This could come out and that could go in instead. I'm not entirely sure, but I'll give it a go and see how it goes. I've put in the new alternate art Captain Hook, just because it's got to get the new alternate art in there.
Absolutely.
And yeah,
that's the nice thing. We got, you can make the choice, whichever one you like. I do like.
Might put this to 4 and run 2 and 2.
Yeah. Yeah, just to confuse people.
Yeah, that's it. I play Hook. No, not that Hook. This Hook. And then we also have Lily's deck to look at.
Yeah, so I think Amber Steel has a lot of options in set 8, a lot of options. So Lily is always, or has been playing a sort of aggressive Amber Steel, but with the songs in to give her sort of enough removal, enough card draw. So we've sort of stuck with that. It's a bit high on uninkables. I can't remember the count, but I think we're something like 19 uninkables in there. But I wanted to there's a couple of really cool lines in here that she's quite keen on trying out, and I think they could be really fun. So we've added in the 1-drop Pluto. He's the 0/2. You can tap him to pay 1 less for the next character you play this turn. So the idea is if we're playing Pluto as a 1-drop on turn 2, we're going to tap him. We're going to play the 3-cost Lady. Lady is a 2/2 quest for 2, but has the ability that when you play this character, you may pay a character with cost 2 or less for free. And we've got Lilo, we've got Piglet, we've got Mr. Smee as 2 drops that we could play out for free. Then we're questing, pretty big next turn, basically. So we're questing for,
turn for it and start turn 3. Turn 3 you're questing for 6 and potentially putting down something with Pluto. Potentially you can get Pluto. you can Pluto on turn 3.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
And then we've got the new Bolt in there as well. Just a couple of copies of him. But, this one is going to take some testing as to quite when he comes out. You might want to actually not play him on 3, but try and play him maybe behind the Pluto bodyguard. I don't know, because he comes in exerted. He's a 3-cost inkable, 0/4, and he has to come in exerted. So that's all pretty bad, typically. But he quests for 4. So if either you get him out, and again with Strength of a Raging Fire here, if you've gone Pluto, Lady, 2-cost, you can potentially sing Strength of a Raging Fire with Lady next turn, deal with the whatever's going to take Bolt out, and then slap Bolt down, and that's a lot of lore to try and answer on turn 3.
The other thing you could think of is putting the big Bolt in here that readies characters, because then you could ready that one to stop it being challenged. I like it. It's going to be a nightmare deck to play against. I can see it now. I can see, I think the only card that I think is missing from this, personally, would be Pete. I think Pete could be quite nice to try and, slow those songs and actions that are going to deal with the lower end cards. But what you would take out, I don't know. Because I was looking at it thinking, I'll just put Pete in and I'll take, I don't know. I don't know. I like the Whole New World and Beyond the Horizon. This combo can work very well together. Obviously, if you sing Whole New World with Ariel, you would gain 7 new cards. You could then, if you've got other characters on board, instead of taking a turn to quest, you could say, well, actually, those 7 new cards I've just given you, let's drop that. Discard all those and draw 3 instead. And your opponent's down on 3 cards, you're on 7. Big, massive card advantage, and go again. But yeah, it looks strong. It looks very strong. I'd like to say I'm half looking forward to playing that. So then, as always, it's the start of a new series, and we're going in. We've got Decklist. We've got day 1 Decklist. We cannot not bring you a Puppies list. It has to be done.
Absolutely.
So, are you actually going to play this one? You got a way last set.
Yeah, I know.
I didn't see a Puppies last set.
I didn't play it. I need to put this together. I really think this looks interesting, right? So we've got Patch, who's a 1-cost, 1-cost uninkable, 0/2, but with ward. And then when you have another puppy character in play, he gets +1 lore. So basically, you play him on 1, you play a Dalmatian puppy on 2, and then he quests for 2. So you got a nice start. You've got the same Pluto into Lady with a Dalmatian puppy down turn 2. So you got that line. We've got several puppies here that ramp us, allowing us to put puppy cards into our Inkwell. Dita, that when you play her, you can put all puppy characters from your discard into your Inkwell face down and exerted. So
that's some serious ramp.
A serious ramp. And I think what's important about that is where this deck has struggled is card draw. If you can fill your Inkwell in other ways, it means you're not having to ink out a hand, which obviously here helps with the hand size. So hopefully there are some deck lists there that you might want to give a go, or might give you some ideas. But I know loads of you are brewing your own ideas at the moment and looking and testing different color combinations. So do let us know. Drop in the comments if you've got a deck list. We love to review Dreamborn lists, so drop your Dreamborn list in. Let us all have a look. Or even if you've seen a deck somewhere else by someone else that you think is really interesting to have a look at, do drop it below in the comments. We will go through some more deck lists next week. We've got more. We've got some behind the scenes that we decided we weren't quite going to have time to cover today. So we'll be looking at some more deck lists next time. If you pop something spicy in the comments, we may well have a look through your deck list. So do comment below and let us know.
And if you're sitting there wondering, how do I even build this deck list? What's this deck list on about? Then next week's episode, we're going to try and go over how to actually build a deck and what tools we use to actually build a deck list that you can share amongst your friends. So yeah, tune in next week for that one. Going on from there, we have some news, some very exciting, not long now, only a month away, quite scary, world news.
So we've gone from hashtag when worlds to hashtag worlds what?
Yeah, worlds what? What? Eh? No. So they obviously announced the date. We've got all that information. We had all that from Lawcast. And then recently we found out a format. Now, this is something I don't think anyone expected at all. I was expecting possibly best of 5, maybe something along those lines, but they've decided to go completely sideways with this. Something I wasn't expecting at all, which is sealed. So, for anyone who doesn't know, sealed or draft is a version that you can play at the game, which basically involves you opening multiple booster packs. So, in this state, players will be provided with booster packs from Shimmering Skies, Azurite Sea, Cage's Island, and Reign of Jafar. They're given 4 of each, and then they have 60 minutes to construct up to 3 inks, 50 card deck. So from what I'm guessing here, they're calling this sealed and not draft because they're not going to be doing the whole pass the deck round and you take a card and then pass it along. You just get your 4. You open those up. That is your thing. It's a lot quicker. Draft, that early stage of picking what you want to take and passing along takes a long time. And with the amount of people, could be quite confusing. So they're going with basically, here's your packs, open them up, build a deck. Now, that sounds nice and easy, but, from, 4, 8, 16 packs, that's under a box. So, and
so
we
I think
know
the
the
maths
pull
works
rates.
out that you get, because you can only use 3 colors.
Mm-hmm.
So basically half of what you open is going to one side and you're not touching it. I think it works out that you're building a 50 card deck out of around about 96 cards. I think that's roughly how the maths is going to work out.
Yeah, and imagine, argument's sake, say you draw into a few of the dual ink cards, which are going to be the cards that you're looking for because they're going to be powerful in an ink combination, but you can also add one other ink to them. So they're going to be your powerhouse cards to build with this. And then you draw a legendary that's not in either of those colours. You're only going to potentially get from 16 packs. You're probably only going to get 2, maybe 3 legendaries. Because a box holds around about 5, so there's a chance that you can only get 2 or 3. So
yep.
it's good.
Removal is going to be a premium, right?
Mm-hmm,
so if
definitely.
you draw some removal, that's going to really tempt you into saying, well, this is going to have to be one of my ink colors because I need to have that removal. So yeah, it's going to be some really interesting decisions. It's, do I want to play these cards, or do I want to play these cards, which are really powerful cards, but they may be in an ink color that I haven't got much else that goes with it, or do I want to play a different ink color because that's got more consistent cards, more decent cards, but it hasn't quite got the power level of those cards. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what players come up with. And you can change your cards in between games, which is quite interesting. So you have to stay in that ink color trio. So yeah, literally you pull your cards,
So
you decide your 3 inks, the rest of the cards disappear, but all of those cards in those 3 ink are kind of potentially in play.
yeah, they become your sideboard. So in a best of 3 situation, I'm going to say we go through the first game and I go, right, well, your 3 inks, there's no items, but I've got 4 item removal cards in my deck. I don't need these. I can take those out in game 2, put something else in, as long as it's within those 3 colours, and as long as it is within the card you pulled from your pack, so you can't go trading around or anything like that. Then you'll be able to use those cards. So if I take those item ones out, put something else in, but at the end of the game, you have to revert back to what your original deck was. again, then you could play game one, go, no, need to change something, you can change that again. But at the start of every game, you have to be back to what your original set list was. One thing I found really...
Sorry, I was going to say, do you think this will be open? Will this be open deck list? So will you know what your...
Potentially. That might be why there's a sideboard. So if it's an open deck list, they get a couple minutes to look, and then therefore they might go, oh, I don't need these, and take them out before it starts. Kind of makes more sense, but we'll have to wait and see on that.
Because if it's not, it's interesting, right? Because one game, you haven't seen all of your players' cards. You might it'd be interesting because you'll be really tempted.
It could be a false sense
to be teching because you can. Because I've got
But the thing is, I'm going to say I'm on the play, and I've got Amber Steel, I don't know, Ruby, for instance, and I decide, well, I'm only going to play my Amber Steel cards. I'm going to hold on to my Ruby cards in my hand to make him think I haven't got, better removal cards. They change a few bits out, and then the next game you then start slapping down Ruby cards. It could be, you could really throw people off. One thing I found really interesting in this is it's only 4 sets. So obviously at Worlds, everything, we haven't hit rotation yet. So from set 1 to set 8 is in play at Worlds, but yet this is only with the last 4 sets.
Yeah, I think they there's been, maybe there's so much talk about rotation. It's a big thing. Being the first rotation, they want to really showcase these sets and maybe make that statement, actually.
Well, I did think this is going to be... It's not at the same time because it's free ink colours and stuff, but this is going to show what sort of cards we're kind of going to be expected to be playing with when we hit Fabled, because once the rotation comes in, we are playing with Shimmering Skies forward, so... But it's going to be interesting because people aren't going to be pulling Sisus and Diablos and B-Preps and, there's not going to be anything like that. So I think it's going to be an interesting... I don't know whether I like it for Worlds personally.
What do you think about the variants? Do you think do you think 16 packs is enough to stop that? Because obviously, what we don't want is to have a really good player at Worlds who just opens his packs and just goes, I got nothing.
That's what I was going to say. To me, I don't know. I guess that this isn't going to be a qualifier for day 2. I think this is going to be a ranking system on potentially to add to another ranking system for the next day. Maybe the whole thing's going to be done off an ELO system. I don't know. But if this is to qualify for day 2, this is harsh. Because you could get bad pulls, you could just get unlucky. Some of the best constructed players in any TCG might never have played sealed format ever. And you've got people that love sealed and play sealed all the time, but never play constructed. So you could have a player who's extremely good sealed player. They can look at the cards and go, that's rubbish in constructed, but this is amazing in sealed. I know this is really good in sealed. And they've played it for months and months and months and months and have a really good understanding. And then you've got the players that have only had a month's notice and only found out that they've got to be playing sealed for a whole day. So I think it could be interesting. If it's not qualifiers for day 2, then I think it's fine. You do add a little bit of RNG in there and, it is a little bit of a mix. But this also could just be their way of showcasing sealed as a potential format going forward. And then the big actual event is actually day 2. This is just a warm-up as such. I'm not sure. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see. I'm not 100% convinced on it as a format for qualifier, but if it's not qualifying, then I think it's fine. So, but talking about qualifying and going into day 2, it's not just the normal day 2 either. So we have triple deck constructed. Now, what are your thoughts on this one?
Again, I like the fact that whoever wins this World Championships is going to have to be an all-round Lorcana player.
Yeah.
So, absolutely no disrespect to anyone. If you've qualified and you've only ever played the one deck all the way through, but you got to the World Finals, you're an amazing player. Absolutely.
Yeah.
My hat's off to you. The greatest respect to everybody that's made these finals. They are incredible players. But I think
to
the
be the
fact,
best of the best.
yeah, you're going to be the best. You know, if you're a control player through and through, you are going to probably have to play some form of aggro deck in there because you've got to make 3 decks out of the 6 ink combinations. So I think it's interesting. I think it also means, as a spectator, I'm not going to be sitting there seeing, you know, red blue
The
mirror, red
same
blue
three
mirror,
decks.
red blue
Yeah.
mirror. Yeah, we're going to see all different decks taking on each other. So yeah, I think it looks like it could be fun. It is going to be different.
Yeah. See, I've come in across from, obviously Gwent was my first. It's not TCG because it's not a trading card, but that style of game, it was all online. Tournaments was always run as triple. That's just the way they run them. That you had to build 3 decks. For anyone who hasn't had a chance to look at this, so basically the players will construct 3 constructed decks representative of all 6 ink. So they can choose whichever way they want to do. You can have, Ruby Amethyst, or you can have Ruby Sapphire, but whichever way you go, that's then used up Ruby. So you have to spread it out across them. You then play best of 3, and it'd be best of 5 in the grand finals. Players review their opponent's decks before the match, then decide who goes first in game 1. From that, I think that the potential of the seed from the previous day would choose who goes first.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so if you get a higher seed in the draft, you get to pick whether you're going first or second. Using ink pair tokens, so basically they'll just have tokens with colours on. You put them upside down, I'm assuming, on the table in front of you, and they are the deck. That is the deck that you want to basically ban or bench. They're calling it bench, but it basically means that you don't have to play against that deck. So if someone has got a Ruby Sapphire deck and you'll go, I don't want to play Ruby Sapphire, the decks I've built will lose to Ruby Sapphire, I'm benching your Ruby Sapphire. You can't play that. It then means that player then has to win with both remaining decks, and that's how you win. Best of 3, you basically have to win with both decks. So if you go first, you win with your deck, you then move on to the next one. If you lose with your deck, you get to pick. You can replay that one again, or you can move on to the next one. So yeah, so from there, basically, they have to go through and win. And then the player in the grand finals, there are no bench decks, so the finalists will have to win with all 3 of their decks, which is, like I say, it's the best of the best, right? You have to win with everything.
Which I think is interesting. I think it's going to be really good for spectating. I mean, the only thing with this format is I think it is a worlds only format. I think if you tried to bring this format any lower than kind of worlds, how if we thought about a DLC, how many players go into that DLC can really afford to build, and play test 3 top decks.
Yeah.
So you need all the good cards in all the colors. That might be quite off-putting, I would have thought, for some players, but at a worlds event, I think great. I think
well, most of them are going to have at least a foil set of whatever set they want in, right? So
yeah,
But yeah, I think it's really nice, and I think, like you say, for spectating wise, it's going to be so much better because you're going to see these decks. You're not going to see mirrors all the time, and you're going to get a chance to really see what a player can do with multiple decks. Like you said before, that everyone that's made this far is an amazing player, whether they play 1 deck or 10. But this really does highlight the person that takes away the deck's done most of the work, and the player's got to do the work, if that makes sense. It's a case of the player really does have to learn all 3 decks and learn how to play all 3 decks very well. So I don't envy him. I imagine it's very stressful, very busy time at the moment gearing up for this. Learning to play 3 decks and play 3 decks well, especially since Jafar isn't even out yet.
Yeah,
exactly. When this releases, hopefully Jafar's out today. But they've got to take on a new set and learn it within a month. So yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, and there's so many interesting decisions there because it's not just what 3 decks do you take, but what 3 decks do you think other people will take, because that's going to be really key. Which decks are you looking to bench, but which decks do you think your opponents are going to look to bench of yours? It's a really, really strategic decisions that the players are going to have to make.
Okay, so leaving on from there, we have the flavor text game. So last week's flavor text was, in this new world, the crown could finally be his. So I think this threw a lot of people off. A couple of people I spoke to all thought it was a Jafar of some description. And we caught quite a few people out. So it was actually Lawrence, which up until the point where I read the flavor text, I never realised this was a crown in his hand. I just thought it was some sort of bar of gold. I never looked into the art that deep to notice it was actually a crown. So, but yeah, I believe he is from Princess and the Frog. Think. It's from the same film as Dr. Phil and all that lot, which I think is Princess and the Frog. If I'm wrong,
yes.
Comment below, yes. Let me know. So, going on from there, we have this week's flavor text. So this week, the card has featured in the episode. He is in here somewhere, so look out for him. But the flavor text reads, only power you need is the power of awesomeness. So, who do you think that is? Drop us a comment below, let us know. And yeah, we're excited for this one.
Great power to have. Power of awesomeness.
If you're awesome, that's all you need, isn't it?
Absolutely. And actually, talking about awesomeness, I noticed some awesomeness on your t-shirt there.
Nice. You spotted it.
Yeah, a bit of flavor text on the shirt.
I should have had that flavor text on it. Yeah. I think this is a present from the other half. It's our anniversary this week, and it's our 2nd year anniversary. So it's a cotton anniversary. So I got a nice t-shirt, and it's got the logo on the back as well. So
awesome.
I think even your back has a big shiny symbol on, doesn't it? Stay uninkable. Look at that, eh? Perfect.
There
and that leads us.
We're not messing
literally. About. No, that's it. Give it a couple months, you'll be able to get these in store, and you can have your own name under it. And
absolutely, you wrap them up with the action figures.
Yeah, that's it.
Still in production. They're coming.
Stick them on the Christmas list.
Let us know in the comments below. What else you need for your Christmas list. We've got you covered with t-shirts.
Yeah.
And action figures. Give us a shout out if you need anything else, and we'll sort them out with the Uninkable Dads logo on them for you.
Yeah, that's it. If you want a, mug, hat, I'm sure we can think of some more. But as always, it is time to roll up that playmat.
Pack away those dice.
And remember, stay uninkable.
See you next time.
Doing today? Listen to the show and learn to play. Whether you are new or you're a pro, I'm sure we have something to show. Amber, green, red, and steel, then purple, blue, complete our wheel. Listen and you'll learn some new strats to help you win some championship mats. So what ink color are you gonna choose? Inkable or uninkable? It is up to you. Choose inkable or uninkable.